They've watched their mother's spirit and finances be drained for a decade. Now her daughters are done waiting. They're launching a rescue mission. For years, we've tuned in, we've watched, we've cringed, and maybe, just maybe, we've hoped for the best for Jenny Slatin and Sumit Singh. We've seen their journey as a quirky, against all odds love story. A tale of two worlds colliding, of an American grandmother finding a second chance at love with a much younger man in India. It's been packaged for us as a romance. But what if I told you that the entire narrative we've been sold is a lie? What if the story isn't one of love, but of capture? What if Jenny Slatin isn't an expat living her dream, but a hostage in a situation spiraling dangerously out of control? Today we are blowing the lid off this story. Because what we have uncovered is not a theory, it's a plot. A secret, meticulously planned operation, not by a government, but by two desperate daughters fighting to save their mother's life. This is Operation Homecoming. Before we dive into the explosive, leaked evidence that will change how you see this story forever, do me a favor. Hit that like button. If you believe families should protect their own, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You are not going to find this information on any other channel. We're going deeper than the show ever could, and you need to be here for every single revelation. This isn't just a recap, this is an intervention. Let's start by resetting the board. Let's look at the facts as we, the public, have been allowed to see them. Jenny Slatin, a woman from Palm Springs, retired and by all accounts of modest means, liquidated her life savings. She sold her belongings, cashed in her 401k, and moved across the world to be with Sumit Singh, a man who began their relationship by catfishing her. That's red flag number one, the foundational crack in this entire story. He lied about who he was. From there, the deceptions only multiplied. We learned he was already married, a secret he kept from Jenny for years while she lived with his family, believing she was their guest, when in reality she was his hidden mistress. We watched as Sumit's parents, Anil and Sahna, waged a relentless campaign of emotional warfare against her, not just disapproving, but actively threatening, shaming, and ostracizing the couple. Sumit, time and time again, appeared to buckle under their pressure, leaving Jenny isolated, alone, and emotionally stranded in a foreign country. We, the audience, were led to believe that the primary conflict was cultural, an old-fashioned family versus a modern, unconventional love. But sources close to Jenny's family, sources who have risked a great deal to speak out, are now painting a far more sinister picture. They claim the conflict isn't about culture, it's about control. And the target of that control has always been Jenny's finances. Think about it. For a decade, who has been the primary breadwinner in this relationship? Jenny. Her social security, her savings, her retirement, that has been the fuel for their life in India. Sumit has had a series of jobs, yes, but nothing that could sustain their lifestyle or offer long-term security. The family's outrage, our sources allege, was never truly about the age gap. It was about the fact that this American woman's money was flowing to their son, but not through them. They had lost control of their son's financial future, which was now inextricably tied to an older foreign woman they couldn't influence. This is where Jenny's daughters, Christina and Dominique, enter the story. Not as occasional guest stars on a reality show, but as the protagonists of a covert operation. For years, they have been the ones receiving the late-night, tearful phone calls. They have been the ones hearing the stories that don't make it to camera. The stories of financial emergencies, of Sumit needing money for this or that, of Jenny's bank account dwindling at an alarming rate. They have watched their vibrant, independent mother become a shell of her former self, her voice growing smaller, her excuses for Sumit growing larger. They have seen the classic signs of a victim in a coercive control situation: isolation from her support network, financial dependency on the part of the abuser, a constant state of crisis and emotional manipulation. The love story we see on TV? They see it as a long con, a decade-long financial and emotional bleed-out. And now they are saying, enough is enough. We have gained exclusive access to a cache of leaked text messages and emails between Christina, Dominique, and a team of professionals they have hired to facilitate what they are calling an extraction. This isn't just concerned talk between sisters, this is a coordinated strategic plan. Let's break down the evidence. The first piece is a series of texts from early this year. Christina writes to Dominique, "Just got off the phone with Mom. It's worse than we thought. He's talking about a new business venture and needs a loan. She said she told him there's almost nothing left. Dom, her voice, she sounded terrified to say no to him." Dominique's reply is chillingly clear. "That's it. The line has been crossed. He's not going to stop until she's a pauper on the street. We're moving to phase 2. I'm contacting the interventionist tomorrow. We need a professional. This is officially a hostage situation. A hostage situation. That is the exact terminology her own daughters are using. They are not viewing their mother as a woman making poor choices. They are viewing her as a prisoner of psychological manipulation. The interventionist they mention is not a family therapist. We've managed to identify the firm they contacted, a discreet agency based in California that specializes in what they call elder care extractions. These are specialists who deal with situations where an elderly individual is being financially exploited or held in an abusive environment, often by a family member or a much younger spouse. They are experts in the logistics of removing someone from a hostile environment, securing their assets, and managing the complex emotional and legal fallout. An email from Dominique to this interventionist, a man we'll call Mr. K to protect his identity, lays out their fears in stark detail. She writes, Mr. K, as we discussed, our mother, Jenny Slatton, is currently residing in India with her husband, Sumit Singh. We believe she is a victim of prolonged financial and emotional abuse. She has been isolated from us, her funds have been systematically drained, and her will to leave has been eroded over 10 years of manipulation. We do not believe she is capable of leaving on her own. We need a protocol for a non-consensual extraction. We need to know the legal framework in India and the US. We are prepared to do whatever it takes to get her home safely. A non-consensual extraction. Let that sink in. This means they believe their mother is so deeply brainwashed, so enmeshed in what they describe as a cult of two, that she will not or cannot agree to leave of her own free will. They are planning to save her from herself. This is not a simple family squabble. This is a rescue mission. The evidence trail then leads us to the second professional they brought on board, an international family law attorney with experience in Indo-US legal disputes. The daughter's concern was practical and terrifying. What legal rights does Sumit have over Jenny in India? Can he prevent her from leaving? Can he claim her remaining assets, her social security? An email from Christina to the lawyer highlights this. We need to understand the worst-case scenario. If we get her to the airport, can he report her passport stolen? Can he claim spousal abandonment and freeze her access to the local bank? We need a firewall. We need to move her assets before we move her body. A firewall. This is the language of a tactical operation, and the plan they devised is stunning in its precision. The leaked communications reveal a multi-step strategy. Step 1 was financial. On the advice of their legal team, Dominique was tasked with setting up a new protected bank account in the United States, solely in Jenny's name. The account was structured as a trust, making it nearly impossible for any foreign claims to be made against it. The next step was to divert Jenny's Social Security payments. For years, those checks have been deposited into an account that Sumit had access to. The plan was to reroute that lifeline, that last stream of independent income, to the new secure U.S. account. This wasn't just about protecting her money, it was about cutting off the supply line to her captor. A wire transfer confirmation we've seen shows an initial seed deposit into this new account, made by the daughters themselves. They are funding the escape. Another text message from Dominique to Christina reads, "The new account is active. The a diversion form has been filed. He won't see the next payment. That's our window. He'll start getting desperate when the money dries up. We have to move before then. Have you secured the ticket?" And that brings us to the most concrete, irrefutable piece of evidence that this is not just talk. We have it. A flight confirmation, a one-way ticket, booked from Indira Gandhi International Airport in New Delhi to Palm Springs International Airport. The passenger's name? Jenny Slatton. The date is marked for just a few weeks from now. It was purchased by Christina on her credit card. This is the smoking gun. The plan is in motion. The clock is ticking. The daughter's theory of the case is that Sumit and his family have been playing a long game. Their initial, very public outrage was real, but when they realized they couldn't separate Sumit from Jenny, the strategy shifted. According to the family's insider source, the new strategy became one of acceptance and absorption. Let him marry her, the source paraphrases the family's thinking. Let her spend all her money setting up their life here in India. Let her sever her ties to America. Once she is completely dependent on him, with no money and no way home, she will be under our control. The American money will have been successfully transferred to the family. It's a horrifyingly cynical perspective, but it aligns with every action we have seen. The sudden acceptance of the marriage, the smiling photo ops. It wasn't a change of heart, the daughters believe, it was a tactical pivot. The cult analogy they use becomes more and more fitting the deeper you look. Cults operate by isolating their members. Jenny is thousands of miles from her friends and family, her primary support system. Cults create a powerful us versus them mentality. For a decade, it's been Jenny and Sumit against the world, a narrative that Sumit has carefully curated, making him her sole protector and confidant. Cults often involve financial entanglement and dependency. Jenny's entire financial existence is tied up with Sumit. And most critically, cults break down a person's sense of self and their ability to make independent decisions. The daughters fear this is exactly what has happened to their mother. She can't see the bars of her own cage because she's been convinced it's a palace. The role of the elder care interventionist, Mr. K, is fascinating. His communications with the daughters read like a field manual for deprogramming. In one email, he advises, the initial contact is the most critical phase. The subject, your mother, will likely react with fear, anger, and confusion. She will defend her partner, as she has been conditioned to do. You cannot present this as an attack on him. It must be presented as an act of love for her. The primary leverage you have is her fear of dying alone and destitute in a foreign country. This is the emotional key you must turn to. He goes on to detail the extraction itself. He advises that only one daughter, Christina, should go. Two would be perceived as an ambush. She is to arrive unannounced, to prevent Sumit from prepping or coaching Jenny. This is the surprise visit that will serve as the reckoning. Mr. K's instructions are meticulous. Christina, you must secure her essential documents, passport, visa, U.S. identification within the first hour. Do not let them out of your sight. This is your non-negotiable objective. Dominique, your role is to be on standby for financial maneuvers. The moment Christina has the documents, you are to execute the larger wire transfer, emptying the Indian account of any remaining joint funds and moving them to the secure U.S. trust. We must assume all local assets are compromised. It's a pincer movement. One daughter on the ground, securing the target. The other daughter went back home, securing the assets. They are leaving nothing to chance. They have wargamed every possible scenario. What if Sumit becomes physically aggressive? What if Jenny refuses to leave? What if the local authorities are called? The legal team has prepared a dossier for Christina to carry, outlining Jenny's rights as a U.S. citizen and providing contact information for the U.S. Embassy in New Delhi. They have a contingency plan for a diplomatic intervention if necessary. This is how seriously they are taking this threat. They are treating their mother's marriage not as a relationship, but as a geopolitical crisis. Let's pause and consider the sheer desperation that would drive children to do this. Imagine having to hire lawyers and interventionists to save your own mother from the man she loves. Imagine having to plot in secret, using coded language, to plan a rescue that your mother herself might fight against. The pain and the conflict in their messages are palpable. In one late-night text, Christina writes, I keep looking at pictures of her from before she met him. She was so full of life. She looks so tired now. Are we doing the right thing, Dom? What if we break her heart and we're wrong? Dominique's reply is swift and resolute. We're not wrong. A broken heart can be mended. A drained bank account and a life of servitude can't. We're choosing the lesser of two evils. We are saving her from a slow death. We have to believe that. This slow death they refer to isn't just financial, it's spiritual. They describe a mother who used to be the life of the party, a strong, independent woman who raised them on her own. Now they hear a woman who is constantly anxious, always making excuses for Sumit's behavior, always walking on eggshells around his family. Her world has shrunk to the four walls of their Indian apartment, and her only real connection to her old life is through a phone screen. The daughters believe this isolation is intentional. It is a classic abuser's tactic. Cut the victim off from anyone who might challenge the abuser's narrative. Christina's last visit, the one we saw on the show, was, according to our source, a reconnaissance mission. She was there to assess the situation on the ground, to gauge her mother's mental state, and to determine the feasibility of an extraction. The happy family scenes we saw were a facade. Behind the smiles, Christina was taking mental notes, confirming her worst fears, and reporting back to her sister. It's a go. The situation is critical. We have to pull her out. The plan that they've constructed is designed to dismantle Sumit's power base systematically. First, cut off the money. Without Jenny's social security, his control is significantly weakened. Second, re-establish family contact. By showing up in person, Christina shatters the isolation bubble Sumit has carefully constructed. Third, provide a clear and viable escape route. The plane ticket isn't just a piece of paper, it's a tangible symbol of freedom, a lifeline back to her old life, a life where she was in control. It proves that this isn't just a fantasy. The escape is real and it is waiting for her. The psychological aspect of this confrontation is what the interventionist, Mr. K, focused on most heavily. He warned the daughters that Jenny is likely suffering from a form of Stockholm syndrome. She may identify with her captor and see his needs as her own. The key is to reframe the narrative. Christina's mission is not to convince Jenny that Sumit is evil. It is to convince her that her daughters need her, that her future is in America, and that she is running out of time. The script for the confrontation, as advised by the interventionist, is gut-wrenching. Christina is not supposed to argue about Sumit. She is supposed to talk about the future, about grandchildren, about growing old with dignity, not with uncertainty, about coming home. She is to present a choice not between a husband and a daughter, but between two futures. One of a slow, impoverished decline in a foreign land, and one of a safe, secure return to the arms of her family. Let's look at Sumit's side for a moment, through the lens of this theory. Is he a master manipulator, a calculating con man, or is he too a victim, trapped between his family's demands and his love for Jenny, using her money as the only tool he has to navigate an impossible situation? The daughter's theory doesn't necessarily paint Sumit as a monster. It paints him as weak, and in their eyes, that weakness is what makes him so dangerous. A man who couldn't stand up to his parents to prevent his own arranged marriage, who couldn't tell Jenny the truth for years, is not a man who has the strength to protect her. They believe he is pathologically incapable of putting Jenny's needs before his own or his family's. He will always choose the path of least resistance, and for a decade, that path has been paved with Jenny's money. Whether his intentions were malicious or just self-serving is almost irrelevant to them. The outcome is the same. Their mother is isolated, broke, and trapped. And so, the stage is set for a confrontation that will never be aired on television. This is the real climax of the Jenny and Sumit saga. Christina, armed with a one-way plane ticket and a carefully prepared psychological strategy, is set to arrive in India. Her objective is clear: pierce the veil of her mother's denial, secure her documents, and get her to the airport. Dominique is a hemisphere away, standing by to execute the financial endgame, cutting Sumit off at the knees. They are not asking for their mother's permission. They are staging an intervention that borders on a kidnapping, all in the name of love. They are forcing a reckoning, not just with Sumit, but with their mother, forcing her to confront the reality of her situation and the future that awaits her if she stays. The final email we have from the dossier is from Christina to Dominique, sent just last week. It's short, and it is chilling. Flight is confirmed. The bag is packed. I've been reading Mr. K's notes over and over. I feel sick to my stomach, but I know we have to do this. I don't know if she'll ever forgive me for this, but I'll take her hating me and being safe over her, loving him and being ruined. It's time to bring our mother home. Wish me luck. Operation Homecoming is a go. The plan is no longer a theory. The pieces are in place. A daughter is on her way to rescue her mother from a life she believes is a lie, setting up an impossible choice that will define the rest of their lives. Will Jenny see this as a rescue or a betrayal? Will she choose the man she loves or the family that is fighting to save her? The clock is ticking, and a daughter's love is about to collide with a husband's control in the most dramatic chapter of this story yet. To truly understand the gravity of Operation Homecoming, we must dissect the psychological prison the daughters believe their mother has been living in for the past decade. It's not a cage with iron bars, but something far more insidious. It's a cage built of emotional dependency, cultural isolation, and a carefully constructed narrative of romantic sacrifice. To an outsider, Jenny's life is a grand adventure. To her daughters, it's a slow-motion tragedy, and they have the receipts, both literal and emotional, to prove it. Let's delve deeper into the evidence they've compiled, the patterns they've identified, and the psychological warfare they believe Sumit has been waging against their mother. Our sources, who have been privy to the daughter's investigation, have provided us with a timeline of what they call financial extraction events. These are not the big televised moments. These are the quiet, off-camera transactions that have bled Jenny's life savings dry. It started small. Soon after she first moved to India, there was the apartment security deposit that was inexplicably lost. Then there was the family emergency loan for one of Sumit's relatives that was never paid back. These were explained away as cultural misunderstandings or the cost of doing business in a new country. Jenny, wanting to be supportive and prove her commitment, paid without question. But as the years went on, the requests escalated. we have uncovered information about a significant investment Jenny made into a supposed t-shirt printing business for Sumit. This was pitched to her as his way of finally becoming financially independent, of being able to stand on his own 2 feet and contribute equally to their life together. It was the dream she had been waiting for. According to a source close to Christina, Jenny transferred over $15,000, a massive chunk of her remaining savings, to get this business off the ground. The business never materialized. The equipment was always on its way. The permits were always being processed. Eventually, the entire topic was just dropped. The money was gone, and Sumit had a new excuse. The daughters see this not as a failed business attempt, but as a meticulously planned deception, a way to extract a large sum of cash under the plausible cover of ambition. This pattern repeated itself. There was the food delivery service idea, for which Jenny supposedly funded the purchase of several scooters that never seemed to be used for deliveries. There was the investment in a friend's restaurant that went under almost immediately. Each time the story was the same. Sumit had a brilliant idea that would finally solve their financial problems. Jenny would provide the capital, and the venture would mysteriously dissolve, with the money vanishing into thin air. To Jenny, these were the unfortunate setbacks of a loving partner trying to make his way. To her daughters, it was a clear and brutal pattern of financial abuse. They see Sumit not as an unlucky entrepreneur, but as a predator who has identified a vulnerable target and has been milking her for every last cent. The psychological component of this alleged abuse is just as calculated. Consider the language barrier. Jenny has been in India for a decade and still speaks very little Hindi. On the surface, this seems like a personal failing. But the daughters believe it's a state of dependency that Sumit has intentionally cultivated. By being her sole translator and her only bridge to the world outside their apartment, he maintains absolute control over her social interactions and her understanding of her own environment. He is her window to the world, but he can tint that window any color he likes. He can tell her the shopkeeper is being rude when he's being friendly. He can tell her his family is saying one thing when they are saying another. This linguistic isolation makes her utterly dependent on him, reinforcing the idea that she cannot survive there without him. It is a powerful tool of control. Then there is social isolation. Where are Jenny's friends? In the 10 years she has been in India, we have never seen her develop a close, independent social circle. Her interactions are almost always mediated by Sumit. His friends become her friends. His family is her only local family. This isn't an accident, the daughters allege. It's a strategy. By preventing her from forming her own support network, Sumit ensures that his is the only voice she hears. His is the only perspective she gets. If she has a problem, who can she turn to? If she has a doubt, who can she confide in? Only him. The very person who is the source of the problem becomes the sole provider of the solution. It's a perfect circular trap. The role of Sumit's parents, Anil and Sana, in this theory is far more complex than just disapproving in-laws. The daughters believe that after their initial theatrical opposition to the marriage failed, they executed a strategic retreat and shifted to a plan of passive absorption. A source close to the family describes a conversation where the sentiment was, "If we cannot get rid of her, we will absorb her. We will let this marriage happen, and we will let her money become our son's money. And when her money is gone, she will either be a compliant and powerless daughter-in-law, or she will leave, and our son will have the assets." It's a chilling long-term strategy. The public disapproval gave them plausible deniability, allowing them to distance themselves from the financial entanglements. But behind the scenes, the daughters are convinced they were advising Sumit, encouraging him to secure his financial future by using Jenny's resources. This theory recontextualizes every scene we've watched. The tearful arguments weren't just about love. They were negotiations over financial control. The family dinners weren't just awkward. They were displays of power. Sana's attempts to teach Jenny to be a traditional Indian wife weren't just about culture. They were about breaking her spirit, remolding her into someone more subservient, someone who wouldn't ask where the money was going. They were trying to erase the independent American woman and replace her with a dependent Indian bride. They failed to change her personality, but they succeeded, the daughters fear, in draining her bank account. This brings us back to the mechanics of the rescue mission. The plan is not just to get Jenny on a plane, it's to deprogram a decade of psychological conditioning. The interventionist, Mr. K, provided Christina with a detailed psychological brief on her mother. He identified what he calls trigger phrases and soothing narratives. For example, he warned Christina not to use accusatory language like, "he stole your money." This would trigger Jenny's defense mechanisms and make her see Christina as the attacker. Instead, he coached her to use empathetic, future-oriented language. Mom, I am worried about your security. I am scared of what will happen to you in 5 years when the money is all gone. I want you to be safe. I want you to come home so we can take care of you. The focus is shifted from Sumit's guilt to Jenny's future safety, a concern that is much harder for a mother to dismiss. The interventionist also armed Christina with a reality package. This is a folder containing hard evidence intended to break through Jenny's denial. It's not just a one-way plane ticket. It includes printouts of her U.S. bank statements from 10 years ago, contrasted with her current depleted balances. It includes a projected financial analysis showing the exact date when her Social Security payments will no longer be enough to cover her living expenses in India, a date that is terrifyingly close. It even includes statements from friends back in the U.S. expressing their concern and their desire for her to return. It's a dossier of the life she has lost and the bleak future that awaits her if she stays on her current path. Christina is supposed to use this package not as a weapon, but as an awakening, a cold, hard dose of reality. But the plan has a terrifying variable: Sumit himself. The daughters have had to game out his potential reactions. What if he discovers the plan before Christina can execute it? A recently leaked text from Christina to Dominique shows their escalating fear. Mom called today. Sounded weird. She said Sumit has been asking a lot of questions about my visit, if I'm coming alone, how long I'm staying. He even asked her where her passport was. She thought it was odd. Dom, I think he might be suspicious. He's trying to get ahead of us. This adds a terrifying ticking clock element to the entire operation. They are not just racing against their mother's dwindling finances, but potentially against Sumit's growing paranoia. Their legal team advised them on a potential tactic Sumit might use, filing a local police report claiming Jenny is mentally incompetent and that her daughter is attempting to abduct her. It sounds extreme, but in a legal system he understands and she doesn't. It could be an effective way to stall them, to tie them up in a bureaucratic nightmare until Christina's visa expires and she is forced to leave. To counter this, their lawyer drafted a notarized affidavit, which Christina is carrying with her. It is signed by Jenny's U.S.-based doctor, attesting to her mental competence and soundness of mind. They have tried to think of everything. They are preparing for a war on multiple fronts: emotional, financial, and legal. Let's imagine the scene as the daughters have planned it. Christina arrives, feigning a simple, happy surprise visit. She insists on taking her mother out for the day, just the two of them, to a neutral location like a quiet cafe, a place where they can talk without Sumit interfering or listening. This is phase 1, separation. Once they are alone, Christina will initiate the conversation, following the interventionist's script. She will start with love and concern, reminding her mother of their life back home, of the family that misses her. This is phase 2, emotional priming. Then, when the emotional groundwork is laid, she will execute phase 3, the reality drop. She will open the folder. She will lay out the bank statements. She will show her the financial projections. She won't say, Sumit spent all your money. She will say, Mom, look where the money has gone. Look what is left. This is not sustainable. You are in danger. And finally, the climax of the operation. Phase 4, the offer. She will slide the plane ticket across the table. I am not leaving here without you, she will say. We have an apartment waiting for you in Palm Springs. Your new bank account is active. Your Social Security is protected. Everything is ready. We are not asking you anymore. We are begging you. It's time to come home. This is the moment the entire operation hinges on. How will Jenny react? The interventionist warned them that the most likely initial reaction will be anger born of shame and fear. She will feel cornered, ambushed. She will defend Sumit because to admit that he has been using her is to admit that the last 10 years of her life, the love story she has sacrificed everything for, has been a lie. It is a truth so monumental, so devastating that her mind may refuse to accept it. She might rip up the ticket. She might storm out. She might call Sumit immediately, betraying the entire plan. This is Christina's greatest test. She has been coached to withstand the storm. She is not to argue. She is not to get angry. She is to be a rock of calm, loving resolve. She is to repeat her key phrases. I love you. I am scared for you. We want you to be safe. If Jenny refuses, Christina is not to give up. The plan has contingencies. Plan B is to stay. Christina is prepared to extend her trip, to be a constant presence in the house, a daily reminder of the life Jenny has left behind. She will be a quiet observer, a witness, hoping that her presence alone will be enough to start cracking the facade of Jenny and Sumit's perfect life. Her very existence in their space is a disruption to the control Sumit has held for so long. But the daughters pray they won't need Plan B. They are hoping that the shock of the evidence, combined with the undeniable love of a daughter who has flown halfway across the world, will be enough to awaken the strong, independent woman they know their mother once was. They are betting everything on that hope. Consider the impossible position this puts Jenny in. For 10 years, Sumit has been her entire world. He may have taken her money, isolated her, and controlled her, but he has also been her companion, her partner, the man who tells her he loves her every day. He is the architect of her prison, but he is also her only fellow prisoner. To leave him is to detonate her entire reality. It's to step out of the world she knows into a future that is terrifyingly uncertain, even with the safety net her daughters have provided. She would be returning to America a different person, older, poorer, and with a decade of her life gone, invested in what her daughters are telling her is a fraud. The shame could be unbearable. This is why the cult analogy is so powerful. People who leave cults often go through a profound period of grief and disorientation. They have to rebuild their entire worldview, their sense of self. Jenny's daughters and their team of experts understand this. The extraction is only the first step. If they can get her on that plane, the next phase of the operation begins: recovery. They have already researched therapists who specialize in coercive control and financial abuse. They are preparing a support system to help her heal from the trauma they believe she has endured. They are not just trying to bring her body home, they are trying to bring her mind and spirit back as well. This is the untold story of 90 Day Fiancé. While we have been watching a quirky reality TV romance, a real-life psychological thriller has been unfolding behind the scenes. A story of two daughters who have become intelligence analysts, forensic accountants, and mission planners. They have sifted through evidence, hired specialists, and declared a quiet war to save their mother's life. The plane ticket is purchased. The strategy is set. A daughter is on her way to execute an extraction that is fraught with danger and emotional peril. She is not just fighting against a man, she is fighting against a decade of manipulation and the powerful, blinding force of what her mother believes is love. The confrontation is inevitable. A mother will be forced to look at the cold, hard facts of her life and make an impossible choice. Will she cling to the love story she has told herself for 10 years, even if it leads to her ruin? Or will she accept the painful truth and take the lifeline her daughters are offering? It's a battle for Jenny Slatton's future, and the outcome is anything but certain. What we are about to witness, away from the cameras and the producers, is the reckoning. A daughter's love versus a husband's control. What should Jenny do? Think about it. If this were your mother, your sister, your friend, what would you want them to do? Vote in our poll. Share this if you believe her daughters are doing the right thing. This is more than just reality TV gossip. It's a cautionary tale and a desperate family's fight for survival.